Dream Kingdom is an ambitious Planet Coaster 2 series where I'm building a traditional, highly detailed theme park split into distinct zones. Been working on this for over a year now, and so far I've got 7 themed areas, including fully built Main Street, Western, Mythology, Aquatic and Viking zones, and I've partially built the sci-fi and fairy tale areas. The recent update in Parade's DLC has completely changed my plans for the park entrance and Main Street. This area was the foundation of the whole series. It's what inspired me to take on this project in the first place. The problem is, I built this before we had the right scenery pieces to do so. Now we've got a dedicated small town scenery set, plus fully functional parades. What I created just doesn't live up to the standard I want for this park anymore. I'm still really proud of what I built because back then I had to get creative and work with the tools we had. So when the parades pack was announced, I had some big decisions to make because I knew what this would mean for the Dream Kingdom Main Street. If I was to do anything with this, I knew it wouldn't just be a few tweaks here or there, it would take an entire rebuild. Ultimately, I decided it's absolutely worth it because this park deserves the best. So for the last 2 weeks, I've spent about 90 hours overhauling my Main Street blueprints, and it's now time to say goodbye to the Main Street I've adored and make way for a bigger and better version. I've kept a few select things from this area that are bespoke to this park, moved them out the way because it was time to bring in the bulldozers. No going back now. Had to be careful with the entrance transport system because for my upgraded classic entrance blueprints, I've created this using the new electric trolley, and that's not going to work with this park. The steam train has a much higher capacity and we need that for the volume of guests we're going to see in here, so I'm keeping the steam train, and I definitely don't want to have to rebuild the entire transport network across the park, so there's a bit of fiddling to make sure I don't delete the station and just use the new blueprint as a shell for this rather than replacement of the whole thing. Next is my very sophisticated plan for the new layout. As you can see, I really don't do a lot of planning. It's usually a guesstimate using the terrain paint. So roughly a square box for the streets, and the green line, that's my general idea where the parade route will run. Now it's time to add the entrance. The new combined entrance and train station are good to go, but like I mentioned, I don't want to use the electric trolley that I've got in here, so I've deleted that from the blueprints. So this is basically a station shell now with pathing. I was finding it a bit too difficult to add both the pathing and the shell at the same time because there's a slight height variation of the trolley station compared to the existing train station. So I've split the blueprint out so I can add the pathing first, then put the station shell over this. Connecting the pathing to the station isn't the easiest task because you have to be super accurate with the height for the connection. I'm still slightly out here, which is doing weird and wonderful things with the game helpfully connecting it to the entrance and exit in a weird way that we don't want. So I had to bring out the big pink measuring block, and yep, that's a tiny gap there, means it's still slightly out. So that means I had to select the entire station and move it up slightly so there's no gap, then delete the extra path the game had created and try again. It will still throw up a connection error if you're even a fraction too close to the station, so moving this back a millimetre and we get the connection to work. That's the hard part done. Then I was able to move the station shell into position without too much trouble, and that's a new entrance and train station in. Next task, I would always recommend adding pathing first because it's easier to make adjustments without anything else in the way. In this case, that's the parade route. For where the parade station sits, I need to adjust the station train tracks so that they don't clash with the parade floats. You can now build crossings over tracks for pavements. Unfortunately, that doesn't work with the parade pathing as they're both considered tracks. So for here, I need a tall bridge so that the parade passes underneath, and then I can get on with building the track. Parade route is in, but it's not yet aligned with the entrance. Track building is in free build mode, so I can't guarantee it's aligned with the world grid. An easy fix for this is to move the entire track, position it so it snaps with the pavement of the entrance, which I know is aligned with the grid, and then I can advance move the parade track so it's both aligned with the world grid and it's in a position so it's symmetrical either side of the entrance. Now, connecting this up, this is where the fun and games begin. I discovered something about the parade track that works differently to how normal paving works. Normal pathing is incredibly versatile in Planet Coaster 2, and it's very easy to work with. I tend to favour the stamp tool over the classic path and the line tool for this reason, but to my dismay, the stamp tool and parade track do not get along. From hours of fiddling, what I've worked out is that the parade track area sits a few millimetres higher than the pathing, and you can't adjust this. I tried. If you attempt to connect an existing path with the parade track using the stamp tool, it will connect at a slightly higher or lower level, meaning at best it looks a bit unsightly. At worst, guests might not be able to traverse through this. With your existing pathing, you can either have the parade route pathing sitting flush with that, or you can have the parade route itself sitting flush with your existing pathing. You can't have both. Fortunately, there is a solution. Well, two options for a solution. First of all, you can use the classical line pathing tool for connections to a parade path. Or, if you move the whole track onto an existing plaza, it will for some reason. Not sure why, but it'll connect up okay that way. So that's what I've gone with here. I can't use this method for adding pathing within the parade route though. The parade will do a circuit around the edge of the Main Street zone, so the pathing within this, I've had to use the line tool to create this. I did keep trying with the stamp tool for a while, more out of habit than anything. I figured since I'm quite a patient person, I could maybe get this to work if I was willing to commit to making the fine adjustments. And I did eventually get this to work for the first piece, but subsequent blocks would always end up creating these little errors in the terrain. So yeah, it's line tool or nothing really. To help with alignment, I've brought out the big pink measuring tool again and created a grid template so I can add the pathing using the line tool. And there we go, got there in the end. That's the pathing in with no weird bumps or gaps, at least none that we can see. Next step is pulling in all of the revamped building blueprints I've created and getting them into position into the new Main Street layout. There's around 14 or 15 new buildings I've created to go into the new layout. Most of these are upgrades from the originals, but there are a few new pieces too. Exciting. First of these new ones is the biggest building, so putting that in first. This is a ride skin for the Flying Theatre flat ride, and I've got this set up so it's a Main Street facade with a Main Street cinema, and that leads you through to the Flying Theatre flat ride at the back. Good concept, I think, but problem is the Flying Theatre is absolutely huge, so it's taking up an awful lot of room. I'm kind of limited where I can put this where it's not interfering with something else. The most viable position I've found is for it to back onto the mythology zone, so yeah, it's interfering slightly with the mythology zone, so some adjustment needed here to fit it in. Not ideal, but it could be worse. Thank goodness, with Planet Coaster 2, moving stuff like like the pathing, it's not such a headache because it's so flexible. You can select everything, move it, and then put it back into a new position, move a few blocks about or whatever, and it's not a massive ordeal. If I'd needed to do something like this in the original Planet Coaster or in Planet Zoo, this would have been a headache and a half. So great, we can do stuff like this in Planet Coaster 2 relatively easily. Anyway, that was the worst to go in. Next is positioning all the rest of the buildings. That's most of the assets gone in that I created for this build. Still have a lot of gaps to fill. This is all the unique buildings, but I've got ideas for some of the flat rides I want to go in, and I'm going to use some generic frontier buildings to fill some gaps, and I'll be creating some more of my own generic buildings to fill the gaps. I also need to make a proper bridge for the steam train to go over the parade entrance. Oh yeah, and I need to test the parade works, but I've opened the park back up, I've turned on the train station, everything's working, nobody's getting stuck on the pathing or anything, so we'll jump back when the rest is done for a final showcase. So there we go, Main Street is complete. Again, this is the 5th Main Street I've built, would you believe? Hope you like what I did with the place. If you'd like to build this yourself, all of the buildings are now on the workshop. There's like 18 of them or something, so there is a lot. But thanks to the small town scenery pieces, all bar the new creamery are significantly reduced in piece count. The original creamery was very undercooked. I was going to go back to that eventually anyway, so we've got a brand new one that looks so much better. But yeah, it's a bit more heavy on the piece count, that one, by about 100 pieces or so. So enjoy, and of course, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next episode, where we'll get back to a normal schedule and complete the fairy tale zone.